Hi, it's Gila, sacred erotic love mentor, poet, and author. And you are tuned into the Collaboration Ascension series. And I'm here today with Suzy Woo. She has graciously said yes to this interview. And again, this is all about exposing a variety of people that I connect with who are healers, authors on the ascension path that have had challenges like you probably have as well, whoever's watching. And if you resonate with anybody, Suzy or anyone else in the series, I would encourage you to reach out. So Suzy, we met actually. We were going to meet at a retreat, but we continued to communicate. And so Suzy, why don't you just say a little bit about yourself before I go into any elaboration?
Okay. Well, I have a business that's called Woo Life, and it's everything that it's twofold. One is stuff that makes you say woo, and then separately, kind of like if it's woo woo and it's fun and cool enough of life, then I do it. So that being said, my name is Suzy Woo. I do energy healing. I'm an astrologer and a psychic medium. I do people's soul blueprint readings and help them to re-plug into the energy from which they were created with.
Wow, amazing. And where are you based out of? Do you have virtual or is it like?
I work around the world. My office is in a suburb of Buffalo called Orchard Park, New York. It's on the Niagara Falls side of the state as opposed to the New York City side of the state. And it's on the Great Lakes. That's where I'm physically located. But the workshops and retreats that I've been writing, I am taking around the world. So I just had a training in England this past June, and I did some workshops in Boston, Massachusetts that sold out. So I'm going back there in March. And then in September, I'm going to Australia with a retreat as well.
Oh, cool. Wonderful. Do you do any virtual work as well? Or are you is it all about physical retreats and maybe physically?
Oh, I do. No, I do healings and readings around the world. So yeah, it's not you don't have to physically be in my office. I've done some very, very powerful readings and healings for people. There's a mother-daughter that comes to mind. They're in Germany. The mother had some issues and we took care of those issues, but then her daughter had abscesses and required surgery. So she consulted me. We did 2 sessions and she didn't need surgery anymore.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, actually, it was interesting. I was just talking about this. We haven't talked about this, but you know, I've had a few people in my life that have gone through cancer. And just today, I'm working with some people, and they were telling me that you know, it's really good to take you know, get regular checkups for cancer. And I'm a little skeptical, you know, about mammograms and stuff because, you know, it's somewhat invasive and they use some, you know, I don't know exactly. I've read about it, but, and I'm not, you know, anybody who wants to do it is completely, that's their choice. But, you know, I would just, I really believe that you can heal yourself of everything. Because I know that people, at least in my own life, and I'm not talking about every single person on the earth, but people in my own life that have had, you know, diseases such as that, had a lot of emotional, what's the word, tension. You know, they had a lot of emotional buildup that they weren't able to release. So I take it upon myself, you know, knowing that happens in my family, I take it upon myself to really just focus in on what's going on inside of me and with my children as well, you know, and my clients of like, how can I heal what needs to be healed? So that it doesn't grow into something that is in my body that, you know, becomes out of control. So I'd love for you to talk about that since you mentioned it about the abscess. Like, you know, what is it about your healing that was for that person to not have to go and have surgery?
Mm-hmm. When, by the time something lands, let's just say, lands in the physical body, it's already existed in the energy before us for a long time. So there's the key is to live in balance, of course, with everything. And it's hard in the human condition because there's a lot of conditioning out there with media and politics and so forth. And also the things that are put in our food and chemtrails and all that kind of thing. So when we're not in balance, it will eventually manifest into the physical form. And one of the easiest examples that I like to use are people who do not stand on their truth, who do not say what needs to be said, who protect secrets, who've never allowed themselves to give voice to their own personal traumas and atrocities. And the biggest one is not speaking kindly to themselves. So all of those kinds of things will eventually manifest as thyroid conditions, upper shoulder conditions, all stuff that's up in here. Growths in the throat, and people who are, they're always clearing their throat. It's because there's stuff there that needs to flow and move. And although we have over 100 chakras in and outside of our body, we focus on the main 7. And it's easier, much easier that way. Like, I like everything simple. And each of those 7 chakras are aligned with a musical note, with visual colors. It's all frequency. Everything is frequency. So in flow of with what you were saying, if you're depleted in your root chakra, you need to introduce more red into your life. And it can be as simple as adding a red throw pillow on your couch, eating more things that are red. It's because it's the same frequency. You're introducing that frequency. And it's funny because people don't think of it in those terms, but it absolutely is. So, eat more raspberries and more red things, or wherever you're depleted and you're not in balance, introduce that into your life. So it's coming in through the visual, but it's also impacting that third eye. And you need all 7 of these cogs to be turning. And when we don't honor and one's not flowing, they get all wonky somewhere and it's going to back up. So it's super important that everything stay in flow.
I love that. I love the way that you explained it. It was so simple and beautiful, and it made a lot of sense. So I'm really glad that you shared that with me, or with all of us that are watching as
I
well.
like simple.
Yes, yes, I really love that. Before we get more into what you're doing, I want to know how you got into this work. Give us a little bit about your background, because I know that that's the way that I connect with a lot of my clients, and I'm sure people will connect with your story. So if you could share that, whatever you'd like to share,
Sure. Yeah. When I was 17, I ended up dating somebody who ended up beating me up, raping me. And it started off as love and putting me on a platform, and just rapidly spiraled into domestic violence, full-fledged. We had 3 children together, and I was in this relationship for, are you ready? 22 years. So from the time I was 17 until the time I was 39, I had left 3 times, came back 3 times, and then married him. I disconnected all relationships with my mom. Domestic violence creates isolation. That's exactly where a narcissist wants you. So after I had gotten out, I did a lot of soul searching. And I had always loved astrology, so I rekindled that. And I started to study charts of criminals. And I learned the words narcissist, empath, and how they can have a very toxic love affair. And that's exactly what had happened in my case. So as I started to see similar patterns in the charts of people who are empathic, people who are narcissistic, I did the chart of the day that I got married. Whoa! So it was like mass manipulation over a super long period of time. So it's crazy to think that everything has a chart, an astrology chart. So your pets, cities, new businesses, everything has a birth chart. So you take your own chart and you put that date and location on it, and that explains if it's favorable, if it's not favorable. And that was a huge eye-opener to me. So when I had first gotten out of this situation, I was gosh darn angry. I was full of, shame, and I just felt disgusting. And I didn't want to, like, surface myself in society because I didn't know how to refile in. And so I was very angry. And what triggered that? Oh, so I started to study psychology, the dynamics of domestic violence. And I was thinking, what was so wrong with me that A, I entered into it, and B, I stayed as long as I did. And I really wanted to get to the bottom of all of it. So that I spent some time doing all that, and I created a non-for-profit called Love Shouldn't Hurt. So I was at a vendor fair for my nonprofit, and it was a holistic thing. So there were like some psychics there and stuff. And me in my angry space, I was kind of like, it's all a bunch of bump. Well, my dad had given me some money for my birthday, and I took a break and I went to somebody who looked very sweet and approachable. So I laid down my money, and without saying it, this was my attitude. Tell me about me. Well, gosh darn it, she didn't tell me how my mom passed away, and then a cardinal flew by, and I was like, oh my God. So after that reading, I went to a numerologist, I went to a tarot reader in the same event, and I was just blown away. So I went back to the original woman over a period of time, and I was just pretty much like, teach me everything you know. And so then I started to learn the details more about astrology, about reading the tarot, and then energy medicine. So that really intrigued me. And I was, I am a major skeptic of everything until I'm not. So I went to another psychic fair, and somebody was giving like free samples of Reiki. So I'm sitting there and I'm like waiting to feel something. I have my eyes closed and I'm kind of like tee hee. And I feel like the person like kind of touched my hair. I'm not really feeling anything, but I'm excited. And so she finishes and she's like, okay, you're imbalanced. And I'm kind of like, what? I didn't feel anything. So now I'm determined, and I'm looking at online. I'm trying to understand how this works. And I found the most highly recommended person in the city. So I took my money, laid down my money, and I'm like, Reiki me. So I lay on the healing table. I go in, I relax, I close my eyes, and for 20 minutes, I heard, and I'm like, oh my God. All right, so this isn't working for me. So the person finished, and they were like, okay, you had some imbalances in this chakra and that chakra, and drink a lot of water. And I was kind of like, all right, so I'm not buying this. So then I go online and I'm trying to figure it all out. And then I found a guy named Jerry Sargent, and he's got these bright blue eyes and long brown hair, and he's all tatted up, and he's saying, breathe, beautiful soul. And I'm like, okay. It was awesome. But I ended up bringing him to New York, where I am, and he was on a TV show that I hosted at the time, and we just hit it off. And that is where I started. So I got my Reiki certification, but that wasn't enough because I wanted proof. I want to know that, this is really working. I don't want anybody questioning. And the fact that I was sharing my story about domestic violence, put me in a very vulnerable state. And I didn't want people saying, oh, she's a hoax or whatever it was. So it was really important that I was able to prove my work. So I went and I got certified in what's called Star Magic Healing. That's Jerry's, that's what he brands his healing work as. So I have my Reiki certs, I have my certs in that, and I can prove it. So I have this this Doohickey. I have this Doohickey that for my in-person clients, it looks just like a Fitbit. Mm-hmm. And it's got an SpO2 sensor on the back, and it measures your frequencies and your heartbeat and everything else. And so I do a scan when you first walk in and a scan when you first walk out. Mm-hmm. And this is the first person that I actually used it on. So I had the device for almost a year, and I was terrified of using it because I thought, what if there's no difference? You know, I know what I'm doing and I feel it, they feel it, but what if it doesn't show?
Mm-hmm.
So I finally was guided, use it with this person. So I was like, oh my God, but I did it. So this is on the back of my business card and it's on my website, and hopefully, so here at the top,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that'll come into focus. So these are the chakras, but
Yeah.
you can see the colors of the top aura.
Yeah.
Red, he's scared, and then here are the root and the sacral chakra. So he was coming from a fear and anxiety, not trusting, skeptical. The middle chakras were low. He didn't love himself enough, and he was not able to stand on his truth. So in the end, the lower picture, we have the blues, the communication, the purples, we opened up the spiritual, the greens, we helped him to love himself more, and then those bars are much bigger. So then I knew I was onto something, and it's provable. So I do even do this in like live demonstrations that I do, where I'll have a volunteer come up and I'll have them wear it and I'll have it connected to a tablet. So I'm doing the healing session and they can see in the client how things shift and change. It's super cool.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I actually have also went through domestic violence, and like you, I was there for quite some time, like 18 and a half years, and he passed away. That's how it ended. But but I mean, so I understand the anger and the process of that, and it took me into deep healing as well, because I saw a pattern in my life even after he died of people that I was attracting, and it wasn't really working. So I completely understand that, and I really actually enjoyed how you were so focused on proving it, because I am, you know, I believe, you know, for me it was a challenge, because I've so much of my life I proved something, like I had to get this degree and that degree and this certification and that certification. I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I know, I see all your certifications. It's really important, and I know a lot of people actually who are like studying to be life coaches, and I think it's great. I think it's great to go through that process, you know, and to be validated. And I also feel like you said your guides, you know, I would love to explore that as well, because I feel like I really connect to spiritual, and I help my clients to really trust their intuition, because I've been so taught logically that you need this and this and this to have that, you know? Right. And then when I started to be like, well, I don't really need that, you know, I need to trust in what's here, you know, what I am seeing inside and not outside. That's been my journey of
it's
like,
so hard to do.
I know, it's so hard to do. I completely agree with you. But, you know, when I think back about all the signs I had, and even people that told me like, what are you doing? Why are you marrying this person? And I was just like, you know, just like you said, I was isolated. I isolated myself. Everybody was gone. And it was just me and him. And for some reason, I thought I needed him. You know, I look back upon it, and I do feel like he taught me so much. But at the time, there were so many other choices I had, but I couldn't see them. You know, even though people were like, no, I refused to look at it, because I just didn't listen to my intuition. You know, I didn't listen to the flags inside. But on the flip side of that also, you know, this is my own philosophy, and you may or may not agree with me, but I believe I had to go through something in order to get to where I am. If I had taken other routes, I would have definitely had a beautiful life. But it may or may not have been my highest journey. I don't know, but that's just my own philosophy.
Yeah. My findings are that when we enter into a relationship like that, I mean, it comes from a place of low self-worth. And I would have never believed that if somebody told me that back in the day, because I was the happy-go-lucky person. And naive. You know, that was a big thing my mom always said, you're so naive, and sensitive and feely, but empathic. That's exactly, you know, that stuff is where you're very receptive, sensitive. You think you could fix people, so you attract people that need fixing. Right. And they kind of poison your mind into thinking that you're meant for each other and that you can remedy this person, and that's not the case at all. So once you're out of a situation like that and you can look at things more objectively, you're able to see it more clearly and then realize, wow, I really didn't, like, I needed somebody else to validate me and make me feel awesome. Well, why did you need that? Because you didn't feel awesome about yourself. Right. So that comes from somewhere. And here for me, I always had said, you know, I had a great childhood. I had both parents, and all of my friends' parents were getting divorced. So having married parents was a big deal to me. So I had said that to my mom. And it turned out that she stayed married with my dad because of that. She was not happy in her marriage. Oh my God. Yeah. So there's a lot of, so many layers there. And for me, like my mom, my mom was adopted by her aunt. And there's a lot of patterning of not being able to stand in your power and feeling validated through others. And then also, you know, with the generations before us, that was conditioning, that was training. Like, women were trained. We were trained that you have to put everyone ahead of yourself. And, you know, God forbid you do something for yourself. You know, don't treat yourself because I need this. And so we were trained to be like, oh, okay, you know, and don't worry about getting sleep or rest for yourself. And don't worry about if you get to have dinner, even if, you know, it's after everyone's left over and it's cold hours later after you've finished the dishes. And oh, so that's what we end up doing. And, you know, we drive ourselves to the point of exhaustion, and it's just not right. So that's why people like us are always going to have clients, because there's a lot of people walking around with this conditioning that they're not allowed to put themselves first, and that being putting yourself first is wrong, and that it's selfish. And it's absolutely the opposite, because if you're not well, if you're not your best and you're only half, then you only have half that you can give from. So when you're full, that's awesome. Then you have all of yourself that you can give from, because there's too many people that are halves. There's lots of halves running around looking for their other half, but all you're going to attract is a half a person. Right. So you have to be full, and then you will attract other people that are complete. Yes. But you got to be complete yourself. And in order to do that, you really have to understand who you are, what it is that you love, and do that stuff. So if somebody's telling you, you know, you love to do so, oh, that's stupid. No, take care of me because I have to, then they're turning your light down. And those are the soul suckers. They're sucking all of your energy out of you, and you're left depleted. They're empowered, and it's nasty, completely out of balance. Did I answer your question? I get kind of distracted.
No, but I think that what we're talking about is about balance. It's about, like what you just said right now, I think is really important, and being whole. Because you're right, when I was in that situation, I'm sure any of our viewers who are watching this, when we are in any challenging situation where we're feeling not fully, I don't want to say not fully loved, but not fully ourselves, not in our power. It's because we are, like you just said, we're half. We're there's something in us that needs healing, that we need to balance. And for me, that came a long time after. I had to, like, really, you know, do a lot of soul searching and a lot of inner work with coaches and mentors and all those people to really kind of see that, and to work on my own energy. Because I know many people who are empaths, they come to me and they're like, I don't know how to balance my energy, you know. And I think that that's so important, you know, the me time, like you just said, we're so conditioned to be exhausted, giving to everybody else instead of ourselves. My mother was the same way, but I refuse now. You know, if like I'm tired, I have children, I'm a single mom, I'm tired, my door gets closed. I'm like, I don't know, I'm going to sleep. You know,
Yeah.
there's food in the fridge, like deal with it.
It's
But
so important to have me time.
yeah, and I think it actually shows your children and other people around you that you take care of yourself first.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a really good example. As challenging as it might seem, it's actually, I feel, a really good learning, you know, strategy, because when you're full, like even I get upset and I have things going on with me, and my, you know, my children see me in that way, but then I recharge, and then, you know, it's better.
Right. Because if you're depleted and you're exhausted, like if you haven't had quality sleep for many days, you're depleted, and you're going to be angry, and you're going to be emotional, and you're going to be triggery. But if you're well rested, you're whole, and you can be all of you and keep things in balance. It's so, so important to have balance and respect yourself. And that's one thing, when you're in the middle of a storm, you don't see it. It's like that. You can't see the forest for the trees or something like that. When you're in the middle of it, you can't see it clearly. Like if somebody said, you know, you need to love yourself, oh yeah, whatever. And it doesn't have any meaning. You don't really understand what that means when you're not functioning with all 7 of those cogs, because it's the spiritual cog that you were mentioning, guides, which was one of your questions, which I probably sidetracked because it's hard for me to sometimes stay on topic because there's so many layers and they're all part of the picture. They're all part of the story. But the problem is, modern society, everyone's functioning from those lower chakras, which is the material part, and hanging on to, you did this to me and I'm this way because of you. Well, guess what? When you're living from that vibration, you don't have enough gas to make it all the way up to the top, to the crown chakra. You have to release things, and you have to forgive. It doesn't mean I'm going to go to the person, to my ex, and say, I forgive you. No, I do it for me. And when people used to say that, it didn't make sense. So I would say it, I would go through the motions, I would say, I forgive him. And I did not feel it, but I was just going through the motions. So it wasn't until I went to an EFT class, tapping, emotional freedom technique, is that tapping. And I had gone, like, I fall into, that's right, I fall into everything kind of ass backwards, if you will. So I had gone to this thinking I was going to learn how to like administer it or teach people how to use it. Well, I didn't know it was like a circle. Yeah. And so people were, so the first person, they're like, oh, I have this a very, very bad headache, and they ask you to rank the headache 1 to 10 or whatever. So the whole circle says, okay, Maria has a bad headache, and you know it's a 10, and so we're all doing it, and now I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to say something. Well, I don't feel anything, you know, my physical, I feel fine. Oh no, and I'm getting like this, and then somebody said it could be like an emotion. I'm like, forgiveness. So it gets to me, and I shared that, and that, so I said forgiveness, and I was able to like say my ex's name without getting all contorted in my face. And so everybody was doing it, and she feels this and all that. And so as I'm going through that, and all the circle is saying it with me, I envisioned in my mind's eye all of this soot in the air, and that a dove appeared and brought all the soot up and out and took it away to be recycled for good. And I felt it, and I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, it worked. And that, it was in that moment I actually received the release of true forgiveness. Wow. So I'm a big all for. So of course I had to get certified in that too. But that was a big deal. And then, you know, as far as like having the need to prove ourselves, that is something that we go through when we do have kind of like a low self-esteem. You know, we feel that we need to prove ourselves to make it in this world. That comes from our training. So I know I said that from something. So because we're conditioned, well, prove it. And everybody's so skeptical about things with good reason. But that is because the dark side takes the good side and just tweaks it a little bit. And that's all that's needed. Now, everybody says, you know, holistic is bad or spirituality is bad. You know, that's not the case. So you really have to see how things resonate for yourself. So I say, you don't have to believe a syllable of what I say, but if any of it resonates, do your own research and see what works for you, because some stuff will, some stuff won't. I'm definitely not everybody's cup of tea. I'm an over the top kind of person. I'm kind of loud and stuff. I'm not for everybody, but it takes a recognition to be able to be okay with that. Like when I first got out of the relationship and I stopped being angry, you have to reach that rock bottom of I am okay. I am acceptable, and then go in and find that element of self-love and understand what it is. And what it is, it's super simple. It's getting out of your head and coming down into your heart and operating from there. So if you shrink yourself down like a little you, and you see yourself, and this is like your little spaceship, and that's your windshield, you're down in there and you're operating from in there. And you cruise around and you're radiating love, 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 love. And then everything kind of flows, and like people smile when you're around, they kind of see your brightness, and you live there. So your whole body can't help but to resonate that frequency. And when you are unconditional love, there's no room for imbalance, because all those cogs are talking to one another in good times.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that. I'm not really keeping track of the time, but I'll put it up here. But I love that, because I think that's the key. That's the key, that everybody wants love, right? No matter which way you turn it, whether you're half, you're whole, whatever, you want love. But the key is that I found, over many years, is that I can't have love until I give it to myself. I can't say to somebody, okay, love me, I love you so much, love me. No, it's about me loving me and allowing myself to vibrate at that frequency, and whatever needs to come to me will. It's not about control. It's not about I love you, you love me back. It's not about conditions. It's just about, just like you said, and I interviewed someone else who said the same thing, and I see it now too, more so than I used to. It's like, I see the light in everybody. And there are times when I'm not balanced too. I told you I get into these states, but it's about the rebalance. Everybody is. I think we're human, of course we're spiritual beings, but we're also human. And
right.
we have
spirituality that is embodied. So we have to honor our emotions, because that's part of being human.
Right. Most of the time for me, it's a frustration of systems, like government or bank, those just like frustrate me. Like, but, but when I get back into who I am, as in that peaceful place, like my daughter said to me today, she's like, breathe. And I was like, yeah, right, thanks. But when we can breathe, right, it's just about, breathe. There's a sentence in Hebrew, they're like, you can breathe now. It's okay, you can breathe. Yeah. But it's just that, like, when we can actually see into being our heart space, then like everything's possible. There are no, there is nothing about distrust. Like, it just is.
Right. We have to take the ceilings off. I mean, we limit ourselves. We put these ceilings there because of all the conditioning. Like, society says you have to work hard. No, you don't. And that you have to work 60 hours a week and have 3 jobs and go to the point of exhaustion. No, you don't. No, you don't. And most of us are running around with an imbalanced root chakra. So if we didn't have the balance, and that begins forming when you're still in utero. So if mom and dad are having anxiety, oh my God, we're having a baby, we can't afford it, that's already pumping into the nervous system. I'm not going to be welcome. The universe isn't going to provide for me. My emotional needs may not be heard or met. So we're all walking around with these imbalances, and to be able to actually go within and be with it and see how you feel there, and then ask yourself, how can I bring balance? What is it that I need? And if it's, root chakra stuff, then you need to understand the universe will always have your back. Always. You will always be okay. And this is the one thing nobody seems to listen. It's like the obvious that nobody sees. You will always be okay. Always. You're always going to be okay. No matter what happens, you're always going to be okay.
Right, right. I
You
think
have
that
to come from unconditional love. Love
yes,
yourself
yes, yes,
wholly.
yes. Even
You'll
in the time,
always be okay.
one of my coaches said this to me, and I always remember it. She's like, every breakdown is a breakthrough. And
Yeah.
literally every time a door closes for me, I'm like, okay, where's the next opening? Like I'm truly like, even though I get into that, anxiety and state of like despair and frustration, the time is less and less. And I'm like, okay, where's the next opening? What do I need to learn from this? How do I need to grow? And it becomes less about, because of, I think all of us, it's like the expectation of what we should have and then what's actually
Right.
happening. But when
Yeah.
we can
Forget
really go
expectation.
inside, right? If we can close our eyes and just feel inside, like everything's always happening for our own good. We just have to flow with it and allow and love, always love ourselves.
Allow is one of my favorite words. Allow. It just sounds good. Just allow. Receive.
Receive.
Allow yourself to receive.
Yes, as women, especially, and brought in very patriarchal, paradigm. We were so, we were supposed to be these go-getters. We're supposed to achieve. We're supposed to go out and get it. But it actually is the other way around. We allow.
Yeah. It's the whole external stuff, pushing and pushing. Well, guess what? If you fall out of a boat and you push, if you go against the current, you're going to drown. But if you go with the current, you'll be washed to the shore.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And wow, we've talked about so many things, but I want to highlight that because I feel like this is a really important point, that if you can just, like, if Suzy's resonating with you, please contact her. I'll put some information in the description. But it's all about receiving, because so many people I know, they're like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have enough of that, I don't, but what about if you just allowed yourself to do what's really resonating with you, and trust that the universe will take care of the rest?
That's getting out of the head. The head wants to control everything, and coming down from the heart and stop white knuckling the steering wheel. When you can just ease up a little bit, the universe is right there saying, here's the right person you need to talk to. And each thing comes in. So it's like, once you decide, okay, I'll give it up just a little bit, that's enough. That's all the universe needs. And you're shown, yes, you choose you, and here comes a mentor, here comes a class or a workshop or somebody that resonates with you, or a topic that you need. But when you have everything super locked down and you have, okay, it's okay to have a goal, but the way that you plan on getting there might not be exactly the best route, because there might be a little side A, B, and C over here that you need to learn before you can get to that destination fully ready to go to the next step. So it's okay to have detours. And if you get angry, you're back down into the root chakra again. So when you are in a state of allowance, you can allow things to come in. And again, all those things have to be open, talking to one another, because if you get a little broken too, and everything gets all backed up and out of whack. So they all have to be open, and that includes that spiritual chakra on top of your head. So a lot of people love purple. Just bring that purple down through your body and bring that red up, so you can manifest, you can get your guidance, and you can actually bring what it is that you want forth in harmony with who you are. I mean, we all have loves and desires and hobbies for reasons. And a lot of stuff is because we were born with a lot of stuff on board that we were not taught. So that's because that's who you are. That's what flavors you. So bring those flavors forth, because the world, there's room for you at the table. And we cover up all of those. Oh no, that's stupid, or this. No, that's what you're here for. Don't cover that stuff up. Just like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. His nasty father made him wear that black nose and made him be like this, and he had to talk funny, and it made him be not who he was. That was a horrible story, because everyone picked on him, and the dad even rejected him for who he was.
Right,
exactly. So take off that cover and be your red nose. Be authentically all of who you are. Glow, shine, 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 shine. And you help light the way for so many other people.
Yes. Yes, that's a beautiful, beautiful analogy. Thank you for sharing that. We're almost at a close. So we've been such an interesting conversation. We can go on for much longer. But I'd love for you to share anything that you're that's going on right now with you that you'd like to tell the audience or our viewers about.
Yes. Please find me online. My website is Suzy-Woo. It's SUZY-WOO.com. I'm based out of Buffalo, New York, but I work around the globe. I do readings, healings, very powerful healings. The healing is, so it's like a billion times the bandwidth of Reiki. So Reiki uses the Earth's magnetic field. I use that, but I also use the cosmos' electromagnetic field. It doesn't wear off, so you don't need to get it again. And usually people don't need any more than 5 sessions. For somebody who's been through mass domestic violence, just starting to see their way out, 5 sessions, they're empowered, they're making money, they're doing awesome. Like, this is serious work that really helps put you into focus, into balance. I could do this anywhere. And I'm doing a retreat in Australia the first week of September. I'm doing a retreat in California, August 22nd and 23rd. I think it's going to be San Diego. Guess who's calling me? Henry Seltzer. He's like a famous astrologer. That's so cool. Hey, Henry. So I just wanted to stop it from vibrating. So yeah, I'm very easy to find. I travel. If you have a venue, you want me to come and do a day of personal healings and readings, just email me. I am open. I love to, I have no limits and no bounds. Woo! I'm ready to go. So yeah, remember Suzy Woo!
I love it. I love it, Suzy. Thank you.
No caffeine.
Yeah, it's her natural high.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing today. And I'll put all the details in the details of the YouTube, so people can just find all that information. So if you didn't write it down, that's completely fine. Everything will be there. And I'm so excited that you shared with us. And if you're resonating with Suzy, because she has so much energy, and just those 5 sessions alone, I mean, that's amazing after going through a lot of challenges. She has really powerful healings that I think you should take advantage of. So thanks for coming on today, and I'm sure we'll hone in on another topic, and you'll come back if you'd like to, because I think
I'd love to, of course.
There's so much we could talk about.
Heart. Woo! Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again. And yeah, anybody who's watching, I am honoring each and every one of you for just being alive. Just breathing every day is a real accomplishment. And I know many of us have gone through so many challenges. So I'm just honoring you for that. And thank you for watching. Thanks again, Suzy, for being here. If you'd like to say any last words before we close.
You matter. Choose yourself. Love yourself. Be yourself, and be proud.
Aho. Thank you.
Aho. Bye-bye.
Bye.